All right, today we're diving in to one of the most important books on government ever written, Aristotle's Politics. This is the work that pretty much invented political science as we know it. For over 2,000 years, these ideas have been echoing in the halls of power, and we're about to find out why. So let's kick things off with the biggest question of all. What's the point of government? What is it actually for? Is it just there to keep the peace and make sure nobody steals your stuff? Or is there something more to it? We argue about this constantly today, but what's incredible is that Aristotle was tackling this very same question way back in the 4th century BCE, and his answer really set the stage for all of Western political thought. To really get the genius of politics, you have to imagine the world it was born into. Ancient Greece at that time, well, it wasn't some peaceful campus for philosophers. It was a total pressure cooker. The Greek city-states, the polis, were just stuck in this endless, brutal cycle of war with each other. And on top of that, constant civil war from within. It was chaos. And knowing that context is absolutely crucial. It means Aristotle's book isn't some dusty academic exercise. No, it's an urgent practical guide. He wasn't just thinking for fun. You could say he was acting like a state doctor, being called in to figure out what was making society so sick and find a cure before the whole thing just collapsed on itself. Now, Aristotle wasn't working in a vacuum, right? His own teacher, the brilliant Plato, had an idea. He said we should basically ignore the messy real world and use pure logic to design a perfect state, a pattern laid up in heaven. But Aristotle, he took a totally different path, a revolutionary one. He argued that you can't build a better world by pretending the real one doesn't exist. You have to get your hands dirty. You have to study what's actually worked, what's failed, and why. This was basically the birth of political realism. And this is the moment he truly invents political science. He and his students launched this massive research project, gathering and analyzing the constitutions of 158 different Greek states. Just think about that. He was creating a huge comparative database of governments to figure out the root causes of what makes a state healthy and what makes it sick. This was completely new. He was looking for patterns in the real world, not just in his head. So after all this groundbreaking work, what was his big takeaway? This gets us right to the heart of his entire philosophy. What is the true purpose of the state? Why do we even bother living together in these complicated, often difficult communities? Aristotle's answer is so profound it has shaped how we see ourselves ever since. He said that a human being is by nature a zoon politikon, a political animal. For him, creating a state isn't some artificial deal we make. It's what we're built to do. It's in our DNA. As he famously put it, anyone who lives outside the community of the polis has to be either a beast or a god. See, for Aristotle, the state isn't just imposed on people from on high. It grows organically, from the ground up. It all starts with the household, the family, which meets our basic daily needs. Then, these households naturally team up to form villages. And finally, the villages come together to form the polis, the city-state. And this, he says, is the ultimate form of community, because it lets us do more than just survive. And here it is, his ultimate point. The purpose of the state isn't just about life, it's about the good life. The whole goal is to create a society where citizens can achieve eudaimonia. And that's a rich word that means human flourishing, living a life of virtue and purpose and excellence. In this view, government is a tool to help people become the very best versions of themselves. Okay, so if the goal is this good life, then what kind of government is going to get us there? This is where Aristotle the scientist comes back into the picture, using all that data he collected to create a systematic guide to the different kinds of government he saw. He classifies governments based on two simple things. Who rules? Is it one person, a few people, or a lot of people? And, this is the most important part, who do they rule for? The correct governments rule for the good of everybody. That gives you monarchy, aristocracy, which means rule by the best, and something he calls a polity. But when those same rulers govern only for themselves, the whole system becomes perverted. Monarchy turns into tyranny, aristocracy turns into oligarchy, which is rule by the rich, and polity decays into democracy. Whoa, hold on. This is a super important point. When we see Aristotle criticizing democracy, we have to remember he means something very specific. He is not talking about the kind of liberal democracy we know today. For him, democracy was a bad word. It meant mob rule, where the poor masses just use their numbers to serve their own interests, usually by taking property from the rich, which, leads to chaos. So what was Aristotle's practical ideal? Not some perfect dream world. It was the polity. And the genius of the polity is that it's a mixed constitution. It intentionally mixes parts of oligarchy, giving power to the wealthy, with parts of democracy, giving power to the poor. The idea is to create a balance, a system of checks, so that neither group can completely take over and tear the state apart. And what's the secret ingredient that makes this stable, balanced polity work? A big, powerful middle class. Aristotle's great insight was that the middle class is the ultimate stabilizer. They're not as arrogant as the super rich, and they're not as desperate as the very poor. They're the foundation of a stable society, the mediators who can bridge that gap between the extremes and make sure the government actually works for everyone. Okay, so let's zoom out. Why are we still dissecting this book almost 2,400 years later? It's because this practical, evidence-based blueprint for how to analyze and build a stable government has had a legacy that is just, well, it's staggering. You can trace a direct line of his influence all the way through Western history. His ideas on mixed government shaped the Roman Republic. In the Middle Ages, they were rediscovered and woven into Christian political philosophy by Thomas Aquinas. The American founders, guys like Madison, Adams, Jefferson, they all read his work very closely when they were designing their own constitution. And today, his whole method has earned him the title, the father of political science. What is just mind-blowing is that the central problems he was wrestling with are the exact same problems filling our news feeds today. This analysis of class conflict, the argument over government's role in helping us live a good life, that constant struggle to balance the interests of the few and the many, these are not ancient problems. They are timeless. Which brings us to a final big question to think about. If Aristotle's core diagnosis was that a healthy, stable society depends on a strong middle class, what would he say about our world today, in an age of growing inequality and intense political polarization? What remedies might the original state doctor prescribe for us now? It's a question that shows just how vital and how urgent his politics still is. This is for entertainment and educational purposes only.